Fantastic. So I will let you introduce yourself, Shailesh, and I will then let you guys get on with the conversation. Since you're here to discuss today the differences, the similarities between the Israeli and Indian markets in terms of digital health innovations across both sides. So yeah, go for it, take it away, and I'll be here.
Thank you, Julia.
Absolutely. Thanks, Julia. So myself, I'm Shailesh Gadre. I am a chartered accountant by qualification, and I actually started my career with a consulting company called Accenture, and then I moved, into healthcare and life sciences. I think that sort of became my passion since then. And last nearly 20 years or so, I have been with the segment. I have had experience across board. So I've run a pharmaceutical company. Actually, I was the youngest CEO in India in a pharmaceutical company. I have been the managing director of a company called IMS Health, and have sort of run a small region for, across countries for that. I have then started my entrepreneurial journey about 12 years. And in this 12 years, I have set up about 6 different ventures, all focused completely on healthcare. These ventures include, a venture in analytics, where we provide analytical support for decision making to pharmaceutical and medical device industry. We have, we track innovations, innovative products, and we actually get innovative products, into India through a very, very innovative, differentiated business model. We have a digital platform, a B2B marketplace that we run for hospitals to come online and buy directly from that platform. We have a hospital advisory, business, and also a stem cell banking business. So multiple experience in this particular space. So very interestingly, jumping into our discussion, for the day, I think when I was given this particular topic, I think I am very, very intrigued with Israel. I'm very intrigued with Israel because we, as I mentioned, in one of our businesses, we actually look for innovation. So I have a team that actually keeps on hunting for innovations in products, in technologies, in even sort of applications or business models that are available. And we find especially product innovation in Israel to be a very, very big hub and a very, very big capability there. So I would like to ask the first question, frankly, is how do you create this as a priority, within your country, and how do you really look at innovation? Because this is a country that looks at innovation very, very differently.
Yes, so thanks for the question. I think, yes, there are some differences between India and Israel, obviously, but there are some unique characters in Israel that I'm able to maybe pinpoint. I think the basis of everything is probably the education that we give and get from very young ages. The curiosity and the ability to ask questions, maybe some kind of rudeness even. And nobody is ever ashamed to challenge or to ask questions, even it's young kids who are challenging the teacher or young kids challenging their parents. So sometimes it's challenging for us as adults, but this is kind of part of the education and the culture that we adopt. And later on, this brings a lot of thinking out of the box, a lot of curiosity that gets in place. And another part of it is that we're not afraid to fail. And we also teach the children not to be afraid to fail. So they try something, they ask something, it does not succeed, it's fine. And they go on and try something else. And then at some point it succeeds, and then it's super exciting. And then they kind of build on top of that. I think that's the basis of everything. Of course, this is not enough. And we also put a lot of effort in education itself. So we have very advanced science and computer science specifically, and everything actually in the academia is of course, we think it's not enough, but I guess it's relatively strong when you look at it globally. And the startup ecosystem is also very much connected. So it's there's a lot of collaboration, a lot of helping each other, relatively very few competition between teams and between people. So if I need help on a specific subject, it's relatively easy for me to find the person that is able to help me, or maybe his friend or his friend of friends. So the network is relatively condensed and very helpful. We're a small country, so it's an advantage in this aspect. And we surely make good use of it. So we're taking the advantage of being a small country. Obviously, being a small country has some disadvantages as well. So, for instance, the market of consumers and of users is small. It's not enough for our companies to be able to sell inside Israel, and this is tricky for us. It's companies from very early stages are obligated to go abroad and to try to adapt the business models and also the selling marketing operations to be relevant to other countries. India is one of the main markets we're looking at. Of course, US is another one, China sometimes, Europe. But actually, it's a challenge for us, and we sometimes try to strengthen Israel as a market also, and not only as an innovation hub, to be sure that the innovation is also beneficial to our own consumers. So this is just another element. And actually, maybe a follow-up question from my end is, when you look at the Israeli innovation, what is most exciting for you? I mean, what are you looking at when you're investigating technologies or companies coming from Israel or in general?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that question. So what we look for is, we have actually mapped a very detailed techno-commercial assessment. So while the technology is important, I think what we bring to table to innovations, is actually how to commercialize the technologies in a market like India, which is a huge market, which I believe every company either has accessed or has to access. So there is no option. If a company has to become a global company and a large company, markets like India and China, are very important for them. But these are very complex markets. So while I do appreciate, and we look for innovations in products or in technologies, from countries like Israel or US or Japan or Korea or many other places, we frankly innovate a lot of business models in India. So basically what I call as innovations to access market. And I think the digital world has played a lot of sort of a game in that, because India has become, over the last many years, has become huge with respect to access to digitization. I mean, payments, has been a very important part of it. Apart from that, the bandwidth for the internet that people have got, the mobile phones becoming a lot more lesser expensive, and data becoming available to people, has actually, frankly, there are people in some pockets where they may not have electricity, but they charge their mobile phones using other means, and they have got their mobile phones, and they're active on those mobile phones, and they're actually shopping and they're buying. So that's the kind of changing culture here in India. And in this whole space, to create market access through innovation, is, I think, very important. So if I have to divide innovation, one is, of course, product, technology, science, etc. That is one part of it. And second is innovation with respect to accessing market. So one such technology that we work with is actually was very helpful during these COVID times, when a lot of people were staying alone, and especially elderly people, and it is not very easy to live alone, and they couldn't get out of the house. They wanted to talk to people, they wanted to talk to communities, and we use digital platform for multiple things. So one is, we sort of got many of them together virtually using Zoom and other such video links to actually play games together. We also had, a lot of people were going through depression and had even, suicidal tendencies. They could access doctors, and counselors very quickly using just an app and using mobile phones. We had, a lot of hospitals and a lot of, other medical services, which were not just a call away, but just a tap away. So those kind of solutions actually for market access have been very, very useful and innovative. From the Indian context, and that's happening. That's changing the turf. How this whole sort of traditional businesses worked. That has actually evolved and completely transformed itself. So I think one of the things that I would like to sort of ask you is how do you sort of look at what is the kind of culture. Because I think innovation and product innovation, especially like you correctly said, is starts from school and colleges, but it is a culture, that needs to sort of support it. Funding needs to come on time. A lot of entrepreneurs struggle because that doesn't happen. People have to take failures in the right stride, because every time you will not be successful, and you have to take failures as learnings, etc. So how do you, create that? Because in India, that is one thing. We have a huge history of innovation, but somehow that we have the whole science of Ayurvedic medicine that exists in India, but somehow we have not gone that far to take it clinical and take it to the world. And I think that is where a lot of people are beginning to work now and try to see what can be done, because in these times that has helped. But knowing from Israel or learning from Israel as to how that culture is created will be very helpful, for us.
So I think, to continue on my point of not being afraid to fail, it's not only a personal feeling of taking the courage to take the risk. It's also, I guess, a lot of support that the entrepreneur typically gets from his family, from his friends. So being an entrepreneur in Israel is, a very high respect. It's almost better than being a doctor these days because, even the salaries are at the top of the list. So it's perceived as a very prestigious thing to be an entrepreneur, especially, of course, a successful one. But even if you're not successful, you're getting a lot of points for trying and for taking the risk. This is, I guess, one thing. And another thing with regards to funding. So, of course, this is something that we build along the years. We didn't start where we are today. So a lot of VCs are coming more and more into Israel. So it's a growing industry that the government, on one hand, is taking an active part in and making an effort to support the weak points in the chain. So, for instance, at some point a few years ago, the government has realized that there's not enough investment in the very early stages of ventures, specifically in scientific areas where the risk is very high and the teams need some money to be able to experiment and progress with the product until they can get some angels money or VC money at later on stages. So the government has started some programs to support these innovations of very young teams. And they make it a point to fund specifically the most risky ventures. So, of course, it needs to be something that they believe in. And of course, there is a due diligence process that the ventures are going through. But the risk is not something that scares anyone. So the essence is, if the risk is high, the potential is high as well. And we are ready to take the risk. And this is something unique, I think. The thinking process around that, I think this is unique, and this is the way we think about it. And I guess this is the cultural thing that you're looking at. And as an example, for instance, 3 years ago, the government has realized that digital health has a very high potential for Israel as a growth engine for the industry. And they have decided to invest a lot of money in digital health specifically, and progress a specific program to support quite a few projects in digital health specifically that involve the industry and a few government offices and healthcare organizations as well. So everyone involved got some funding to be able to collaborate and work together to grow this industry in specific. And this is just an example of how the government gets involved in where it feels that is needed to kind of improve the industry balance in a way.
Sure.
I'm so sorry to interrupt just here, but we have come up on time. I'm sorry that we have a hard stop. But thank you both
We'll have
so
to
much.
continue offline.
That's it. This could go on. It was super interesting to listen to. So thank you both so much for your views and for sharing.
Sure.
And yeah, thanks for coming to our summit.
Thank you
very much.
Julie. We appreciate it.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Thank
Nice
you.
talking.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.